How can modern technology aid democracy? From a technological standpoint, we are ready for liquid democracy. With liquid democracy, you can designate your vote on any issue to any person of your choice. For example, if there's an economic policy that's coming up for a vote, but you don't understand that policy very well, you can give your vote to someone you trust who does understand this policy. With the level of technology that we now have, that's a common sense. It's a common sense, sensible political system that would provide a vibrant democracy and legitimately reflect the will of the people. Liquid democracy, then, is a form of direct electronic participatory democracy that acknowledges that a lot of people won't vote on a tedious issue like planning permission for a new sewage system, which inadvertently implies that the liquid in this liquid democracy is fecal. Nonetheless, in a devolved, collectivized participatory democracy, a small, self determined constituency can nominate an accountable figure to act on their behalf. Democracy would be good, but democracy ain't what we got. An empowered, involved civil society who can see their collective will delivered is now a possibility. Oh, I didn't see you guys come in. I was just reading a little book of the book I'm reading right now. It's called Revolution by Russell Brand, the comedian, actor, uh, whatever else, singer, I don't know, yogi. But it's a great book, and I really do support liquid democracy. I think it is one of the solutions to the democracy project. The idea that I could give my vote to someone else, allow them to vote on issues that I don't care about or don't understand. Someone else could give me their vote, so on and so forth. This idea of really having a more active representation. I am surprised to read this book and not to find any mention of the word Bitcoin so far. I've tweeted to Mr. Brand several times about Bitcoin, no responses. Obviously, he's a great celebrity and we're just the hoi polloi. But still, I really think Bitcoin should be part of any book called Revolution. It seems like a backbone of the idea, the cornerstone of our new society. And I just am still really excited about Bitcoin. So I'm just watching. Give us a thumbs up and a share if you're out there. Seems like a tough time of the day, not seeing the kind of audience we usually have. But this is just a quick update episode. And if anyone's around, we will take calls after we do the news. Starting off, the price of Bitcoin is up 5.28% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,637, a high of 6,708, and a low of 6,283. That's $1 for 15,082 Satoshis. We are getting closer to the 15,000 Satoshi barrier. And the reason I'm doing the show early today is we're having a Bitcoin meetup here in Las Vegas, and I'd almost forgotten about it, and I won't be able to do the show later because I'll be out at the meetup. We're meeting up at Aces and Ales in Las Vegas, and you can just join us on meetup.com. It's just getting started, this meetup group. It's Bitcoin Las Vegas, bitcoinlasvegas.org. And if you're in the area, please stop by. We're just going to be hanging out, getting some dinner, maybe some drinks. We are still dealing with the fallout from the New York Times story, Bitcoin price was artificially inflated last year, researchers say. However, this story has already faded into the background as we have a brand new top story. SEC official pushes back on claims that Ether is a security. A very surprising announcement from the SEC, saying from the Yahoo All Market Summit crypto event in San Francisco Thursday. Glad to see you guys are into crypto finally. Is there still a thing called Yahoo? He said the audience that the agency doesn't see. Now, this is a strange quote already, but here we go. The agency doesn't see a lot of value in treating Ether today as a security, explaining that the fact that there is no central figure, Vitalik Buterin, or group responsible, Ethereum Foundation, for Ethereum, and therefore the assets may not represent an investment contract. This just seems very strange to me. I was there when the Ethereum launched their crowd sale, and they had no code and no product, and it really seemed like they sold a security to start their company, which they used to write their code, which created their product. Seems kind of open and shut to me. The real problem with this that I can already see, and they're already saying in some articles, Bitcoin and Ether are not securities, but some initial coin offerings may be, SEC official says. And it already seems like an unfair playing field. It seems like Ethereum is being treated differently than other ICOs, and I'm not sure the reason for that. It does seem like they may think that Ethereum has grown so much that it's out of control and that they couldn't possibly punish the entire market. Just a reminder, I predicted this. We would talk to Tone Vays very often on the old Bitcoin group show, and he'd talk about how bad Ethereum was and how it was obviously a security and everyone who touched it is going to jail. And I said, I don't know, Tone. There's a possibility that these guys will just roll it over and they'll say, well, I guess it was kind of a security, but we can't stop it now because it's too big. And we better just shrug our shoulders and pretend there are no laws. And it seems like they're shrugging their shoulders and pretending that there are no laws. Very surprising decision from the SEC. As Kevin Pham said on Twitter, you can argue that Ethereum is now a state-sponsored attack on Bitcoin. And it really does seem like the state has gotten behind Ethereum. And some of you may like that because you're Ethereum bag holders, and that's great. But others of you might not be so sure because you're fans of Bitcoin and the original Bitcoin vision, replacing the world's money with sound currency, ending the printing of fiat money. Those are pretty big goals, and it would be a shame to see us lose them because now we can just print tokens and call them securities, or print securities and call them tokens. Barry Silbert, the famous owner of Digital Currency Group and investor in many cryptocurrency companies, big fan of Ethereum Classic as well, came out on Twitter and said, "Hear that? That was the entire crypto industry breathing a collective sigh of relief." And once again, a curious tweet from Mr. Silbert. Why would you have to breathe a sigh of relief unless you weren't sure what you're doing was legal? It seems to me it's been of questionable legality this whole time, and the fact that the SEC has rolled over doesn't really change the initial uh, reminder here, the initial truth behind this, that they printed a security and they sold it and they created a company. But this story is still developing. We'll see how this turns out. They are saying it is possible, the way that they said it, that they still will come after Ethereum. This could be a head fake by the SEC. It is entirely possible that they still come out after many of the lower and smaller ICOs, although now I don't know if they have a legal leg to stand on. It seems to me if they're letting Ethereum off the hook by the system of fair justice, they have to let everyone else off the hook. It's really amazing what's going on with my remote desktop connection. I've got a great connection here to the network and the internet, and it keeps reconnecting for no reason. It's shocking. I don't know how people can use this software to actually do work. It's pretty not impressive. But we'll try to keep going. Bitcoin's astronomical rise last year was buoyed by market manipulation, researchers said. And this is just an example of how the mainstream media is going to deal with the fact that Bitcoin may have been manipulated to the all-time price of 20K. Achieving the 20K price seems like an accomplishment, but what the media is now saying is it's not an accomplishment, that you didn't really achieve the 20K price. There are some saying that 10K was the proper price without manipulation, and that would be quite an accomplishment still. If we could return to 10K, that would be fantastic. But we'll have to see how it goes. Bitcoin is selling off this year. Here's what the decline could mean for stocks. Bitcoin is now near a third of its record high of nearly $20,000 reached last December. To investors worried that Bitcoin's bursting bubble could spill over into equities, one market watcher says the crisis is contained. Note this is the opposite of what CNBC was saying just a few months ago when they were saying things like Bitcoin is linked to the stock market or the stock market is linked to Bitcoin. As the new expert says, there are things to be concerned about in terms of the stock market with emerging markets and other issues, but I don't think Bitcoin is going to be one of them. It's funny how every expert you interview has a different opinion. It's almost like you could get an expert to say anything, no matter what it was. Dr. Doom calls out crypto bull. Major coins rally on SEC news. And as we've been saying, the SEC director says that Bitcoin and Ether are not securities. Good luck finding the creator of Bitcoin. Good luck finding the centralized company that's holding a ton of Bitcoin, calling themselves the Bitcoin Foundation, or some other official sounding name, which sends digital currencies higher. But that's not good enough for Dr. Doom, Noriel Robuni. I say his name horribly. I have no idea how to say his name. We'll call him Dr. Doom from now on. He's called the collapse in the housing market, the collapse in the banking system, and he's been bearish on digital currency since they began their meteoric rise in 2017. And now he's calling out Tim Draper, saying Draper is indeed a lousy investor. After Theranos, he became a crypto evangelist. He will lose on his shitcoins even more than he lost in Theranos. And that's going to be tough to do. I'm pretty sure Mr. Draper is still profoundly up on the Bitcoin that he bought from the Silk Road. And he still has quite a few investments in quite a few Bitcoin and cryptocurrency related companies. I'm not sure it's over yet, not by a long shot. Opinion Bitcoin will be impossible to reinflate into a bubble again. Well, maybe it'll rise properly and normally this time. Also, with the Federal Reserve's quantitative tightening operations, there's a potential for a much bigger dollar spike. It's one of the rare times I've ever seen anyone say that the dollar was going to go up in value, but let's see what he's got. Voltaire famously said that paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value, zero. His words serve as an inspiration for many precious metals enthusiasts, but if Voltaire were alive today, he might well modify that statement to cryptocurrencies. No, I'm not sure you're getting it. I think the statement's still incredibly valid today. I don't believe that Voltaire would modify it. I believe Voltaire is talking accurately about paper money here. Maybe the writer from Market Watch is confused here, and he thinks that he was just referring to the paper money of having no value because it's made out of paper. So yes, its intrinsic value, the thing that it is, has no value. It's paper. But I think he's also returning to the fact that you can print endless amounts of it. So it truly has no value in itself. Whereas Bitcoin, once again, you can't print endless amounts of it. It just doesn't make any sense why they keep not getting this and they make these false analogies. This doesn't make any sense. You just, oh, but if he were alive today, Mark Twain would be referring to the internet. Oh yeah. Great one. So, not seeing it. CFTC. So he says there's a regulation, there's enforcement, there's investigations. Still not seeing this why people would not reinvest into Bitcoin. 100 and so this is great. People are just saying in the chat they wanted us to go to zero again, and here it is. That means 111 billion Bitcoin is invested on the way to zero, which is where I think Bitcoin is going. Bold prediction from Market Watch. Straight up zero. So you're saying that this big network with all these computers that allows you to send value all over the world has no value? I mean, I'm fine. You want to say it has more value. You want to say it has less value. You want to say it should have less value because it's Tuesday. But come on, no value? Really? This big network that's being copied by everyone, this blockchain technology that's so exciting. IBM's already used it to solve the diamond problem. No value? Really? That's what you want to say in 2018? And you're a investment strategist with institutional money manager? I won't even say their name. I don't want to play down on them. But yeah, I'm glad those opinions are your own. Good luck with those opinions. Okay, so I was totally not convinced by this article. So scratch that one. Walmart patent envisions Bitcoin powered electrical grid. Of course, it might not be Bitcoin, it might be something else, blah, blah, blah. But retail giant Walmart has won a patent for an on demand electrical grid that would be powered by Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency, which sounds great until you realize the fact that Walmart is going after the electrical grid. Just the other day, Domino's was filling in potholes and fixing the streets. I'm not sure we're going to like the corporate controlled future. Maybe we should all read Snow Crash now, get ahead of it. And we have some positive news about Trump, but I'll believe it when I see it. It says Trump defies Sessions by saying he will probably, whatever that means, support the marijuana bill. And the president appears to be joining a group of lawmakers pushing back on the attorney general's marijuana policy, which is crazy because he's the one who appointed that attorney general. So it is very strange story. And again, Probably. Not to be critical of Trump or to insult Trump supporters, but he has a very time sticking with what he says, just to say it nicely. And we had some breaking news that Coinbase has banned Gab's account. Centralized crypto exchanges and wallets are cancer and contradictory to everything that crypto stands for. Well, of course, but once again, Gab, you're just lazy like WikiLeaks. What kind of revolutionaries are you? Did you bother to encrypt your email? Or are you going to do that later too? This is closing the doors, the barn doors after the horses have escaped. Give me a break here. WikiLeaks, Gab, you're too lazy to learn how to own a Bitcoin wallet? Maybe buy a Trezor or a Ledger or keep put your Bitcoin on there, never have this problem. Never have to embarrass yourself showing that you didn't know how to create a real Bitcoin wallet and you didn't know how to put up a real QR code. And you had to use Coinbase because they had these easy to use JavaScripts that you could just copy and paste so you don't have to know anything. And oh, people can donate different amounts or whatever the supposed advantage for using Coinbase is. Well, the supposed downside is that they could freeze you at any time. This is a no-brainer. I've got nothing against Gab. I barely know what they are. I think they're a Twitter clone. And as it says at the top, the free speech social network. So if you're involved in free speech, you've got to understand there's a couple of sides to free speech. There's free speech we like, people making speeches or positive things. There's free speech we don't like, people making hateful speeches, negative things. Both sides of there are in the free speech argument. So if you're Gab and you work for Gab and you're going to go promote free speech, and presumably they're decentralized and they don't have a centralized server, but for all I know, you could end the free speech on Gab by seizing their centralized server. Why would you use Coinbase? I don't care that they froze you. Coinbase's job, they're a bank. They have banking relationships. They've been trying to be a bank for years, right? No one's denied this. Coinbase doesn't deny this. But Gab or WikiLeaks, you're trying to be free speech. You're trying to be, in your own way, revolutionaries, to go back to Russell Brand's book. And your plan for taking Bitcoin is Coinbase? Really? Really? I can't even get upset about that. I'm upset with Gab, not with Coinbase. But let's check in with the chat, see how we're doing. John's excited for the Las Vegas Bitcoin meetup tonight. That's going to be great. Just a couple people coming, but we keep doing it every week. We're just trying to build it up, get the Bitcoin people in Las Vegas excited about Bitcoin. And especially with all this news and price action, all these big events, always a good time to go to a Bitcoin meetup. Check meetup.com, find out if there's a meetup in your area. And if there's not a meetup in your area, I give you permission to start one. That's right. That's all you were waiting for. Permission, encouragement, the magic feather. You were the scarecrow. You had the courage all the time. You're the Tin Man. You can do it. Let's see. People are turning in late along with the shit coins. Fiat Punta says he used to watch Russell Brand on Big Brother and Little Brother. Ah, memories. Oh, that's funny. I never watched him Locked in the House. I've seen some of those Locked in the House shows, but not with Russell Brand. I used to watch him on Brand X. He had a great talk show. Then, in my opinion, he kind of got tricked into turning his talk show into a live talk show, which was great. But Russell kept referring to how live it was and kept proving to us how live it was. And I think it distracted him from what he had before. He had some really tight segments. He'd do some interesting things, like he had a person from the KKK on, and then he'd ask him questions and try to see why he was such a racist. And maybe he could get him to agree that, there's nothing wrong with other people. Sometimes not. But he would do risky things like that. And that's what I like about Russell Brand. He's always challenging the status quo. He has a very interesting perspective, maybe a little hippie and liberal for you guys. But, Russell Brand, interesting character. So let's see. They're saying Tone is always wrong. Bet against him and win big. I'd say that's a good idea, but I'd also say, and not to be totally critical of Tone. I mean, he's my friend and stuff, but he does kind of hedge both sides of things. He'll say something like, I'm holding all of my Bitcoin long term, but in the short term, I think it's going to go down to $1. And you see how both of these can be true. And if it goes up, he says, well, of course, I told you to hold them long term. And if it goes down, he says, I told you it was going to $1. I just think you're being played, if you can't see that. If you have a person that says one thing that it'll be X price by X date, and it is or it isn't, and they admit it and they talk about it, that's one thing. But if I keep telling you it's going down and it doesn't go down, and I keep telling you it's going up and it doesn't go up, I mean, it just seems like I'm telling you both sides. So take that with what you will. Let's see. This guy's happy. He can't wait for Tone's stream. He wants to see how he cries about it. I think he's probably going to be right. Tone is going to cry about this Ethereum article. He's not going to be accepting of it. Just remember, you want to talk about predictions. I told him in the time period there's a possibility of this happening. I even thought a strong possibility because of the way that I could see all of these big money players as they continued to play with Ethereum. They knew it was questionable. We got Barry Silbert right here, breathing a sigh of relief. Oh, we broke the law so much and we just got away with it. Oh, I don't know if that's such a good thing to be breathing relief over. And I don't know that it's over. The SEC guy has been a little wiggly, and he said Ethereum's not one. But for me, that kills his case against all the other ICOs. Which, again, if you want to say Ethereum's not a security, all these other things are not a security, only a security can be produced by the Securities Commission, that's a reasonable argument. That's defendable. The problem with their argument right now, Ethereum's not a security because it got too big, is like saying that Scientology is not a cult because they got too big and they got IRS recognition. Just because something's big or difficult to kill or will be really messy if you crack them down doesn't mean that you shouldn't carry out the law. The law is there for a reason. If you don't carry out the law, people might lose lots and lots of money in these questionable entities that they're creating that you just blessed. And if you bless something that causes people to lose all their money, you're in a way responsible. So it's a very strange decision today by the SEC. Keep in mind, this was an announcement at a conference. This wasn't a paper or a study or something that they published. We don't 100% know that this is the final decision, but it does seem like the way that they're heading, the direction they're heading, and the market did recover based upon this bullish news. Jay Tranter says, the guy at the SEC should be fired. That's what Tone's saying. Yeah, good luck with that, especially in this climate with the president. Oh, it's not unfair to say. You have to go back and look at his TA, but and look at what he's saying. Remember, he has no skin in the game. He'll say things like, "All my Bitcoin are long, but you should sell yours because it's going down." It just seems like you're playing both sides of the thing. Like I'll tell you today, the price of Bitcoin is going to go down, but it's also going to go up. Just go ahead and look at that. Just think about it. And we do have the call lines open right now. If you'd like to give us a call on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, we'll talk to you right now. But this is going to be kind of a shorter show. I do have the Las Vegas Bitcoin meetup to go to tonight. But I was just checking in to see what you guys thought about the SEC and their decision saying that Ethereum is, at least at this time, not a security. He says the agency doesn't see a lot of value in treating Ether today as a security. Then he says, explaining the fact that there is no central figure or group responsible for Ethereum, which seems really questionable because they do have a central figure and they do have a group. So I don't understand that part. Then he says, the assets may not represent an investment contract. He's also hedging there. He says may not. So I would just keep an eye on that. Seems a little fishy. But that is the big news of the today. That's what's causing, I believe, the price to go back up a little bit. I still don't know that we're out of this bearish downtrend that everyone's talking about. I don't know that we're completely through the Tether news or the potential future Tether news. But at least for today, Bitcoin's up 5%. So not bad. And if there are no calls, it sounds like there are no calls. We're going to go ahead and go to the reading, and then we're going to go towards the end of the show. So just a recap for those of you who haven't been keeping up with the reading of my novella from Satoshi, or To Satoshi with Love. In the first couple of chapters, the character John Front was introduced, and he had a space alien crash into his roof. The space alien then claimed to be Satoshi Nakamoto, despite his pink skin. We were introduced to Mara, who works at Chain River, a major blockstream or Bitcoin kind of company. And the characters getting together. We had a little introduction of Donald Trump. I was writing this during the election, during the actual election time, making my own choice about who I thought would win. I chose to go with Trump, and he did win, unfortunately, or what you have. And the Trump is kind of a satirical, silly Trump character. He's not supposed to be based on truth or anything, so it's no reason to get upset. But it is a fun thing to have the president now as a character in this book. But let's just go ahead and read the next section, and hopefully you're up to date. So here we go. The desk was looking better, but there wasn't much left to chip off, at least off the top. This algorithm wasn't getting solved today. She'd had enough. It was time to go home. She disconnected the cords from her laptop, put it in its protective sleeve, watching as the sleeve covered the Hello Kitty and battle armor sticker that she'd imported from Japan on eBay, as well as the logos of various companies she and her friends had worked for. A mishmash of symbols and words that used to mean something, but now are just a backdrop for Marauder Hello Kitty and her battle axe. The sleeve went into her backpack and her phone went into her pocket, and she was about ready to tunes on and tunes out when she heard Derek from the video game room. Leaving already? He said, not even pausing his game of Dead or Alive 2, continuing to massacre zombies and sometimes innocent people as we spoke. You know you lose points if you do that, she said, pointing out his poor gameplay. I know, but it makes the game more fun if everyone is against you. Is that why you started Chain River? Ooh, solid burn. You're funny. Any progress on the algorithm? Not yet. Well, take all the time you need, but finish the project. We could always hire more if you think it's going to take too much longer. I'll think about it. I know you will, he said, slaughtering another cowering innocent with a scythe. He was a creep, but a creep with millions of dollars. It didn't hurt that I slipped on the best headphones money could buy as I left the building, keying into the private elevator that opened right to our floor, already having called a private lift to take me home. Working for the bad guys had its perks. Interesting, nice and short chapter. Good point to end on. And if you've got any Bitcoin that you'd like to donate, maybe $20 or $10, you could donate to support this show. It's great if you donate when the price is down. We actually get less donations when the price is down, less views when the price is down, and less subscribers. So your help is much appreciated, whether it be a Bitcoin donation or signing up for the Patreon at patreon.com/WCN. Remember, you can sign up with any amount that you'd like, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you think is reasonable to help support the show and the network. Be sure to check out Andy Hoffman. He did a great interview this morning with Francis Pouliot, and they talked about Bitcoin and everything that's going on. And that's about it for this show. We'll be back tomorrow morning. And if you're in Las Vegas, check out the Bitcoin Las Vegas meetup at Las Vegas. It's a bitcoinlasvegas.org. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.